Mrs. Nkechi never imagined that one day her own home would become a place of fear and sorrow. A place where her once sweet and innocent baby girl, Oma, would grow into something dark, something terrifying. But that is exactly what happened. And it all began when she hired a housemaid named Sandra. Nkechi was a single mother, working hard as the managing director of a major company in Onitsha. She had a caring and loving husband who really took care of her even during her pregnancy, while she was almost ready to give birth. On the day of her giving birth to her baby girl, which was one of the happiest days of her life, Nkechi was so filled with joy and excitement. Suddenly, what she heard next struck her to her bones. It was about her husband, who left few minutes ago from the hospital to get her some food items, had a terrible accident on his way back to the hospital, and this took his life. He died immediately. Nkechi could not get herself that moment. She cried so bitterly. No, 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 this isn't happening. You can't just go like that. No, please, where are you? This is not true. No, this is not true. You only went out to get something for us. No. Nkechi was so bittered. She was in a painful mood. The doctor tried to console Nkechi, but she was too bittered to be calmed. She cried because she knew her home would not be the same again without her husband. Nkechi cried bitterly because she would never set her eyes on her husband again. They loved each other very much. She could not bear the pain of losing her husband forever. She had to take care of her baby alone. Her baby had now become a fatherless child. Nkechi never wished that for her little baby, but there was nothing she could do about it. All she knew was that she had to take care of their baby and give her all the best she deserves. That was the only thing Nkechi knew she was supposed to do. 1 year later, Nkechi had healed from her pains. She knew she could not cry forever, even though it was really painful for her. She knew she had to be strong for her little baby girl, Oma. As a single mom that she is now, she had to work hard to take care of her daughter and herself. She had to leave her house for work every day by 5 a.m. and she never returned before 8 p.m. Her job consumed her, leaving little time for anything else, especially for Oma. As much as she loved her baby girl, Nkechi found herself overwhelmed by the demands of her career. She told herself that everything she did for Oma. She thought that providing her daughter with a good life meant working endlessly, but deep down, she knew she was losing touch with her little girl. In desperation, she decided to hire someone to help with Oma. That's when Sandra entered their lives. Sandra seemed perfect at first. She was polite, hardworking, and appeared to care deeply for Oma. Nkechi quickly grew to trust her. She didn't ask many questions when she saw how Sandra interacted with her daughter. Oma would smile and laugh in Sandra's presence, and that was all Nkechi needed to see. So, she left the house each day, confident that her baby was in safe hands. But as time passed, Oma's behavior began to change. It started with little things. Nkechi noticed that Oma no longer cried for her when she left for work in the mornings. The bond between mother and daughter seemed to be slipping away, and Nkechi blamed her busy schedule. It's just work, she told herself. Oma will understand one day. But the truth was much darker. Sandra wasn't just an ordinary maid. When Nkechi left the house each day, Sandra transformed to something else entirely. Sandra had long been the head of a powerful coven of witches, and she had set her eyes on Oma. She had a plan for the child, one that would drag her into a world of darkness. One evening, while preparing dinner, Sandra suddenly stopped what she was doing. Her eyes glazed over and a cold, cruel smile twisted her lips. She wiped her hands on her apron and quietly made her way to the baby's room. Inside, Oma lay in her grip, peacefully sleeping, but Sandra knew that Oma's peaceful days were over. With a quick chant under her breath, Sandra began the ritual. Dark shadows swirled around the room and the temperature dropped, turning the air icy cold. Oma's eyes snapped open and she screamed. It was not the cry of a normal baby. It was a cry filled with fear, pain, and confusion. But no one else in the house could hear it. Sandra whispered words in a language no one should understand. And slowly, Oma's cries grew weaker. The shadows closed in, wrapping around the baby like a blanket, dragging her into Sandra's evil kingdom. Oma had no chance. She was just a helpless baby, and Sandra was too powerful. From that moment on, Oma was no longer just an ordinary child. She was marked, born to Sandra and her coven. The child's innocence was taken, replaced with something dark, something dangerous, something terrible, much darker. Oma's life became full of so much darkness. She has really been possessed by Sandra. Years passed, and as Oma grew, the signs of the evil within her became clearer. Nkechi, still busy with her job, barely noticed at first. Oma had stopped playing with other children, and her bright laughter was replaced by long, airy silences. She would often sit by herself, staring off into space, or drawing strange symbols in her notebooks. But it wasn't just her behavior that changed. Her presence in the house grew unsettling. At night, Nkechi would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart racing. She would feel hurt deep down inside her heart. She was so scared. She felt eyes watching her, even when she was alone in her room. The once warm and comforting home had become cold and airy, and it seemed that the walls themselves were hiding terrible secrets. Oma had started school by this time, but her odd behavior only worsened there. Other children avoided her, sensing something was wrong, and they were right too. Without anyone realizing it, Oma had been quietly spreading the darkness Sandra had planted in her. She would whisper strange things to her classmates, and soon, many of them fell under her influence. They became distant, their eyes hollow, as if something had been taken from them, just like it had been taken from Oma. Oma's teachers didn't know what to do. They tried to contact Nkechi multiple times, but she was always too busy to meet with them. Her career had consumed her so much that she barely had time to listen. When they told her that Oma was behaving and showing odd tendencies, Nkechi brushed it off as childish mischief. But deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. Back at home, the situation worsened. Oma's presence became more sinister with each passing day. Mrs. Nkechi would find strange and horrible signs on the walls of her daughter's room, symbols she couldn't understand. And then, there were the nights, those terrible nights, Nkechi would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, unable to move, feeling a crushing weight on her chest, as though someone or something was watching her. One night, she awoke to find Oma standing by her bed, just staring at her with cold, unblinking eyes. There was no warmth, no recognition in her daughter's gaze, only an emptiness that chilled Nkechi to her core. "Oma," she whispered, her voice trembling. But Oma said nothing. She just smiled, a slow, airy smile that sent shivers down her mother's spine. Then, without a word, she turned and left the room. Nkechi didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Sandra, of course, continued to play her role perfectly. To Nkechi, she was still the hardworking maid who took care of the house and her daughter. But Sandra's secret life continued. Every night, while Nkechi slept, Sandra would slip out of the house and join her coven in the dark, forbidden places they called home. There, in the dead of night, they would perform rituals, strengthening their hold on Oma and spreading their influences further. Nkechi didn't know it, but Sandra was slowly taking over her home, her daughter, and even her own peace of mind. The house became filled with a dark, suffocating energy, and Nkechi began to feel like a stranger in her own life. The one person she trusted, her maid, was the source of all her misery. Then came the night that changed everything. Nkechi had barely been sleeping for weeks. She was exhausted, not just from work, but from the overwhelming sense of dread that filled her home. Every corner of her house felt wrong, as though something was watching her, waiting for her to make a mistake. One night, after tossing and turning for hours, she sat up in bed, her heart racing. Something was terribly wrong. She could feel it deep in her bones. Without thinking, she got up and made her way to Oma's room. As she opened the door, her breath caught in her throat. There, standing in the middle of the room, was Sandra, her eyes glowing in dim light. Oma was sitting on the floor, surrounded by strange symbols drawn in red chalk. Her small hands trembled as she repeated words that made Nkechi's blood run cold. Sandra's gaze shifted to Nkechi, and for the first time, her true nature was revealed. Her face twisted into a cruel, mocking smile, and her voice dripped with malice.
You are too late, Nkechi.
Sandra hissed. Your daughter is mine. Nkechi stumbled backward, fear gripping her heart. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The woman she had trusted with her child was a monster, and Oma, her sweet little Oma, was no longer the innocent child she had once been. Desperate, Nkechi ran out of the house and called her pastor. She had ignored the warnings, the signs for too long, and now she had no choice but to confront the evil that had taken over her home. The pastor arrived early the next morning, carrying a holy Bible. His face was grim, as though he could sense the darkness even from outside the house. As soon as the pastor entered the house, Sandra's smile vanished. She retreated into the shadows, but it was too late. The pastor began to pray, his voice steady and strong. The air in the room grew thick, and a cold wind began to swirl around them. Oma's body convulsed violently, her eyes rolling back as the dark presence within her resisted the prayers. She screamed, "Ah! Ah!" Not in a child's voice, but in a voice so twisted and unnatural that it made Nkechi's blood freeze. Sandra too began to shake, her body contorting in unnatural ways. The battle between the good and evil raged on, and for a moment, it seemed like the darkness would win. But the pastor didn't stop. He pointed the Bible at Oma, continuing to pray louder and louder, his words cutting through the air like a sword. Suddenly, Sandra let out a horrifying scream. That echoed through the walls of the house. Her body dissolved into a mist, and with a final wail, she disappeared, leaving no trace of her presence behind. The evil coven had lost their leader, and with Sandra gone, their grip on Oma was finally broken. Oma collapsed to the floor, crying uncontrollably. The dark shadows that had clouded her soul were lifted, and for the first time in years, she was free. In the days that followed, Nkechi and Oma began to heal. But the darkness that had filled their lives for so long didn't leave without leaving scars. The house was quieter now, but not in the peaceful way it once was. It was a kind of quiet that follows a storm, a tense, almost uneasy silence, as though the walls themselves were holding on to the memories of what had happened. Nkechi tried to get back to her routine, but it wasn't easy. She couldn't shake the guilt that weighed heavy on her heart. She had left her child in the hands of a monster, too distracted by her work to see the danger that had been right in front of her. Every time she looked at Oma, she felt a pang of sorrow and regret. Oma, on the other hand, was different. Although the evil presence that had controlled her was gone, there was a sadness in her eyes, something that wasn't there before. She barely spoke, and when she did, it was in short, quiet sentences. At night, Oma would sometimes wake up screaming, the memories of things she had seen and done in that other world still haunting her. Nkechi would rush to her side, holding her close, whispering comforting words that felt empty. But no matter how tightly she held her daughter, she couldn't erase the horror that had consumed their lives for so long. Nkechi knew that they couldn't continue like this. Something had to change. She couldn't just pretend that everything would go back to normal. Oma needed help, and she needed it fast. One evening, after another one of Oma's nightmares, Nkechi made a decision. She sat down with her daughter, holding her small hands in hers. "Oma," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "we are going to get through this. I promise you, things will get better. But we need to face this together. No more hiding, no more secrets." Oma looked at her mother, her eyes wide and tired. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I love you very much. I didn't mean to scare you. I didn't mean to make you scared. I didn't mean to do this. Okay, Mommy. I'm so sorry. I'm really, really sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to do those things." Nkechi's heart broke at the sound of her daughter's voice. She pulled her into a tight embrace, tears streaming down her face. "It's not your fault, Oma. None of this is your fault. I should have been there for you. I should have protected you." They sat like that for a long time, the weight of their shared sorrow pressing down on them. But in that moment, something began to change. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A spark of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness. The next day, Nkechi contacted the pastor again. She explained what had been happening with Oma, the nightmares, the lingering fear. The pastor listened patiently, his voice calm and reassuring as he spoke. "Mrs. Nkechi," he said, "this is not something that will go away overnight. The kind of evil that your daughter was exposed to leaves marks. But with time, prayer and support, she can be healed. You both can." Nkechi agreed to bring Oma to the church for regular prayers and counseling. She realized that healing wouldn't just be about prayer. It was about love, attention, and being there for her daughter in a way she hadn't been before. She couldn't undo the past, but she could start being the mother Oma needed now. For weeks, Nkechi and Oma visited the church regularly. The pastor prayed over Oma, and little by little, the darkness that had gripped her began to fade. It wasn't an easy process. Oma still had bad days. Days when the memories of the evil kingdom would creep back into her mind. But those days became less frequent as time went on. Nkechi too found herself changing. She began to see the importance of being present in her daughter's life. She made a conscious decision to adjust her work schedule, taking more time off to be with Oma. She started paying attention to the little things. Oma's laughter, her smile, the way her eyes lit up when she was happy. For so long, Nkechi had been focused on providing material things, thinking that would be enough. But now, she understood that what Oma needed most was her love, her presence, and her care. The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger each day. The shadows that had once loomed over their home were gradually replaced with warmth and light. Oma began to open up again, slowly returning to the vibrant child she had once been. She is now being friendly and lively, free from Sandra's bondage. She became so happy after everything that happened. Happiness filled her heart anytime she's going to school. In her normal self, she's a smart and intelligent pupil who was determined to succeed like her mom. She became the best artist in her school and she took first position, and this made her very happy because she wants to make her mom proud of her. The nightmares still came from time to time, but now she knew that her mother was there to protect her, and that made all the difference. Months passed and the memories of Sandra's evil slowly faded into the background. It was as if the house itself had been cleansed, the dark energy that had once filled every corner now replaced with peace. Nkechi had learned a painful lesson, one that she would never forget. Trusting a stranger with her own child had nearly destroyed their lives, and she would never make that mistake again. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Nkechi and Oma sat together on the front porch of their home. The air was warm and the sky was painted with shades of orange and pink. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was a sense of calm between them. "Mom," Oma said quietly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Thank you, Mom." Nkechi turned to her daughter, surprised. "For what, sweetie?" "For not giving up on me. For loving me, Mom," Oma said, her voice soft but filled with emotion. Nkechi smiled, her heart swelling with pride and love. "Oma, I will never stop loving you, my baby. Okay, I love you. You're my baby girl, okay? No matter what, you are my daughter, and I will always be there for you, my dear. You know Mommy loves you, right?" "Yes, Mom, I know you love me." "And yes, baby, Daddy loves you too." "Okay, Mom, yes, Daddy loves you so much, and I also love you, my princess. I love you so much, okay? I will always love you, my baby. I will always love you, my lovely baby, okay? You know you're Mommy's baby, right?" "Yes, Mom, I know. I love you too, Mom." "Yes, darling, I love you too, baby. I will never stop loving you, my princess. No matter what, you're my daughter, okay? So make sure you remain a good girl, okay? Make sure you keep on getting first position. You know Mommy have nice things for you." "Yes, Mom, I trust you now." "That's good. So make sure you remain a good girl." "Okay, Mom. I love you, Mom. I love you too, my princess. I love you. I love you. I love you, my baby. Okay? So make sure you keep on doing well, okay? Be a good girl, okay? I'll always be here for you, darling." Oma leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, and for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. From that day on, Nkechi and Oma lived in peace, free from the shadows that had once haunted them. Sandra was never seen again, and the evil kingdom she had dragged Oma into was no longer a threat. But the lessons learned during that dark time stayed with them. Nkechi had learned that no job, no amount of money could ever replace the love and attention a child needs. So one day, Nkechi took Oma for a treat with their car. She wants Oma to experience those good times they were supposed to have together while she was growing up. She took Oma to the kids' fun fair where she and Oma could have lots of fun and enjoyment. So Oma would not miss those fun times she's supposed to have as a child. They also went to an eatery where they had lots of nice meals and snacks. Oma was really happy because she was having wonderful moments she had not experienced before. Because during her past, there was nothing like that. She had been under a spell for years. She's now free, so it gives her the opportunity to enjoy herself as a normal kid, including the fact that her mother had realized her mistakes and called up her pastor for intervention. Oma now has good memories of her childhood. Nkechi had come dangerously close to losing her own daughter, not just to the evil forces that had taken her, but to her own neglect. From then on, she made sure that Oma was her priority, no matter how busy life became. Oma too had learned valuable lessons. She understood now that there were dark forces in the world, things that people didn't talk about, things that looked in the shadows. But she also knew that love, true unconditional love, could banish even the darkest of evils. They were stronger now, both of them. The horror of their past had bonded them in a way that nothing else could, and though the memories of those dark days would never fully disappear, they knew that together they could face anything. Nkechi never hired another maid. She didn't need to. She had all the help she needed in her daughter, and the two of them worked together to rebuild the life that had once been shattered. As the years passed, the house that had once been a place of fear and sorrow became a home filled with love, laughter, and warmth. And though the shadows of the past still lingered in their memories, they never let it control them again. Oma, who used to draw strange symbols, is back to her normal self. She now draws beautiful objects and humans perfectly well. When Nkechi first saw her daughter's drawings, she was so happy and proud of Oma, thanking God for bringing back that beautiful, innocent, well-behaved and talented Oma she had given birth to 8 years ago. Oma became the best young artist in her school, making everyone amazed at her beautiful skills of drawing. Oma grew up strong and wise, always remembering the day her mother saved her from the darkness. And Nkechi never forgot the lessons she had learned, the importance of family, of love, and of being present for those who matter most. And so, mother and daughter lived not just happily ever after, but stronger and more united than ever before. Here are the key morals to learn from the story of Oma and Nkechi. Nkechi abstains from Oma's life due to the work allowed negative influences to enter her home. The story highlights the importance of being present and involved in a child's life, beyond just providing for their material needs. Second key moral is blind trust can be very dangerous. Yes, it can be very, very dangerous. Mrs. Nkechi trusted Sandra without truly knowing her. This teaches that children should be placed carefully. Yes, children should be placed carefully. We need to be careful in whatever we are doing. When it comes to children, when it comes to whatever we are doing, we need to be careful, especially when it comes to children and family. We need to be very, very careful. The third key moral is love. Love is patient and unconditional. Despite the horror and heartbreak Oma experienced, her mother never gave up on her, showing her that genuine love will fight to overcome any obstacle or darkness. The fourth key moral is forgiveness. Forgiveness and healing take time, although it was painful. Nkechi and Oma's journey to forgiveness and healing teaches that patience and resilience are necessary to move past trauma. The fifth key moral is evil cannot overcome true love and faith. Not at all. Ultimately, Sandra's evil intentions were defeated by Nkechi's determination to protect her daughter and the power of faith. So faith is very important. It is very important for us to have faith in our lives. This reminds us that love, faith, and perseverance are powerful forces against darkness. Another key moral is the importance of seeking help when needed. Ikechi reached out to her pastor when she sensed that something was wrong. Yes, she reached out to him, which is very important. The story highlights that sometimes asking for support and guidance is necessary. Yes, very, very necessary, especially when faced with challenges that feel overwhelming. Thanks for watching this video and hope you enjoyed my story. Please do well to like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel. Click on the subscribe button so you can get notified when I upload a new video, because African Folktales by Ogechi have more amazing stories for you. See you in my next video.